The last message my son ever sent me said, "Don't call me anymore." No explanation, no argument attached. Just that single sentence sitting on my phone screen like a death notice. I remember staring at it for so long, my eyes started to burn, rereading it again and again, hoping I'd misunderstood, hoping there was some hidden meaning that didn't involve my own child cutting me off like I was nothing. I'm still asking myself the same question now that everything has happened. Was I wrong for how I reacted? Or would you have done the same thing if you were me? 2 months before that text, if you had told me my son would want nothing to do with me, I would have laughed in your face. I was the kind of parent people complimented, the always there mom, the one who never missed a school event, who answered calls at 3 in the morning, who helped with rent even when my own bills were overdue. My son, Adam, was my only child. I had him young. His father left before Adam even learned to walk, and from that moment on it felt like it was me and him against the world. I built my entire identity around being his mother. Every decision I made, every sacrifice, every sleepless night. I told myself it was worth it because one day Adam would understand how much I loved him. Growing up, Adam was a good kid. Not perfect, but kind. He hugged me in public even when he was a teenager. He used to call me just to tell me about his day. When he went away to college, I cried for weeks, but we talked almost every night. I paid part of his tuition by working double shifts, and when he graduated, I was front row, ugly crying, convinced I'd done something right in my life after all. Things started changing when he met Lily. I don't say that to blame her entirely, but that's honestly when the shift began. He was 25, had just landed his first real job, and he was excited about building a life. When he introduced me to Lily, she was polite, reserved, a little distant. I chalked it up to nerves. I tried to be welcoming. I invited her over for dinner, asked about her job, remembered details she mentioned so I could bring them up later. I wanted her to feel accepted because I knew what it felt like to be the outsider. But there was always this invisible wall. She never really relaxed around me. She'd smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Adam started calling less, not drastically at first, just enough that I noticed. When I'd ask him about it, he'd say he was busy, work was stressful, adult life was hectic. I told myself this was normal, that I had to let him grow up. Then came the first real argument. It was over something stupid, at least it felt stupid to me. Adam had promised to come over for my birthday. I cooked all day. I even made his favorite dessert, the one I hadn't made in years because it took so much effort. An hour before he was supposed to arrive, he called and said he couldn't make it because Lily wasn't feeling well, and he didn't want to leave her alone. I remember the tightness in my chest, the way my hands shook as I held the phone. I said things I shouldn't have. I told him I felt forgotten. I told him it hurt that he could drop me so easily. He got defensive. He said I was guilt. Tripping him, we hung up angry. After that, things never fully went back to normal. We talked, but there was tension under everything. Lily stopped coming over altogether. Adam started setting boundaries. A word he had never used with me before. He told me not to call during work hours. He told me to ask before visiting. Each boundary felt like another brick being laid between us, and I didn't know how to stop it. The breaking point, the thing that led to that text, happened over something that still feels surreal to me. Adam and Lily got engaged. I found out through a Facebook post, not a call, not a visit, a photo of a ring on her hand with hundreds of comments congratulating them. I sat alone at my kitchen table and cried like I hadn't cried since Adam was a baby. When he finally called me later that night, I couldn't hide how hurt I was. I told him I felt excluded from his life. I asked him why I wasn't important enough to be told directly. That conversation spiraled fast. He said I was making everything about me. He said Lily felt uncomfortable around me, that she thought I was too involved, too emotional. That word, too, echoed in my head. Too much. I'd spent my entire life being too much for people, and now my own son was saying it. I tried to explain myself, to tell him everything I'd done came from love, from fear of losing him. He said that was exactly the problem. A few days later, I sent him a long message. Too long, probably. I told him I felt pushed aside, that I didn't recognize our relationship anymore. I asked him if Lily was the one behind this distance. I regret that part now, but at the time I was desperate. He didn't reply. Hours turned into a day, then 2 days. I kept checking my phone, my heart pounding every time it buzzed, only to be disappointed. Then came the text, "Don't call me anymore." No greeting, no explanation. Just that, I called anyway, straight to voicemail. I texted back, asking what he meant, if we could talk. No response. I tried again the next day. Nothing. That's when the panic set in. Real, physical panic. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I replayed every conversation we'd ever had, wondering where I'd gone wrong. The first week, I told myself he just needed space. The second week, I started to realize this wasn't a temporary thing. Friends told me to give him time. Some said adult children pull away, that it's normal, but nothing about this felt normal. Being told not to call anymore felt like being erased. I still sent messages, even though he never replied. Not angry ones, just small things. "I love you. I hope you're okay. I'm here whenever you want to talk." Each message felt like shouting into a void. I checked his social media obsessively, watching him live his life without me. Engagement photos, weekend trips, smiling faces. I felt like I was watching my own funeral while still alive. By the end of the first month, I was exhausted, humiliated too. I started questioning myself. Maybe I really was controlling. Maybe I suffocated him. The guilt was crushing. But at the same time, there was this quiet anger growing inside me. I was his mother. Didn't I deserve at least a conversation? An explanation, something more than a cold sentence telling me to disappear. Around that time, I found out something that changed everything, something I wish I could unknow. A mutual acquaintance, someone who didn't realize I was in the dark, casually mentioned Adam and Lily were planning to move out of state after the wedding. They'd been talking about it for months. And Adam hadn't said a word to me. That's when I realized the silence wasn't accidental. It was deliberate. I started putting pieces together. Lily's discomfort, the boundaries, the engagement announcement online, the text telling me not to call. It felt like I was being phased out of my own son's life, slowly and intentionally. And the worst part was that I wasn't even allowed to defend myself. At this point, I was standing at a crossroads, even if I didn't fully realize it yet. Part of me wanted to keep begging, to apologize for things I wasn't even sure I'd done wrong, just to have my son back in my life. Another part of me, a part I hadn't listened to in years, was starting to feel something like self-respect waking up. I kept thinking, if he doesn't want me in his life, what does that say about how much I'm willing to tolerate being hurt? So that's where I was, alone in my house, staring at my phone every night, wondering if it would ever buzz again with his name. Before I tell you what I decided to do next, and how everything completely exploded 2 months later, I want you to stop for a second and really think about this. If your own child told you not to call them anymore, cut you off without explanation, and erased you from their life, what would you do? Would you keep chasing them, or would you finally stop and protect your own heart? Because the choice I made after that silence changed my relationship with my son forever, and I'm still not sure if it saved me or destroyed what little we had left. 2 months passed after that text, and every single day felt heavier than the last. At first, I counted the days obsessively, like somehow keeping track would give me control. Day 10, day 23, day 41. Each morning, I woke up with this split second of peace before reality hit me again, before I remembered that my own son didn't want to hear my voice anymore. I stopped texting him after the 5th unanswered message because the silence started to feel humiliating. It wasn't just that he wasn't replying, it was that he was clearly choosing not to. That realization sat in my chest like a stone. I tried to distract myself. I threw myself into work. I reorganized my house 3 times, went through old boxes, found photos of Adam as a toddler with spaghetti sauce all over his face. Adam in his high school graduation cap, standing next to me with his arm around my shoulders. I'd sit on the floor surrounded by memories and cry until my head hurt. I kept asking myself how we went from that to this. How did I become someone so easy to discard? People around me noticed I wasn't okay. My sister told me I needed to stop blaming myself for everything. A friend told me adult kids sometimes go no contact, and it doesn't always mean the parent did something unforgivable. But none of that eased the ache. Because this wasn't an abstract adult child. This was my child, the one I stayed up with when he had nightmares, the one I held when he broke his arm, the one I defended against teachers, bullies, the world. And now I was being treated like a threat. About 6 weeks in, something shifted inside me. I wouldn't call it peace, but it was quieter. I stopped checking his social media. I stopped expecting my phone to ring. I told myself over and over that if he wanted me gone, I would respect that. Not because it didn't hurt, but because constantly reopening the wound was killing me. I started therapy, something I'd never done before. Sitting in that room, saying out loud that my son had cut me off, made it real in a way I couldn't avoid. The therapist asked me a question that stuck with me. What would you tell a friend if their child treated them this way? I didn't have an answer. Then, exactly 2 months after that text, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. I'd gotten into the habit of ignoring calls because every unknown number felt like a potential disappointment. But something told me to pick up. When I said hello, the voice on the other end was shaky, unfamiliar at first, and then it clicked. It was Lily's mother. I hadn't spoken to her more than a handful of times before. She sounded nervous, like she wasn't sure if she should be calling me at all. She said my name, asked if it was really me, and then said, "I don't know how to say this, but I think you deserve to know what's been going on." My heart started racing so hard I had to sit down. What she told me unraveled everything I thought I knew. Apparently, Lily had been telling people for months that I was emotionally abusive, that I manipulated Adam, that I guilted him, controlled him, and made her feel unsafe. She had convinced Adam that cutting me off completely was the healthiest option, that any contact with me would sabotage their relationship. Lily's mother had started noticing inconsistencies, stories that didn't quite line up. She said she tried to talk to Adam once, gently, but Lily shut it down immediately. The final straw for her was when Lily bragged, during an argument, that she had finally gotten rid of me. I couldn't breathe. I felt dizzy, like the room was tilting. Hearing my worst fear spoken out loud by someone else was almost too much. I asked her why she was telling me now. She said she couldn't carry the guilt anymore. She said she didn't think Adam fully understood what he was doing, that he was being pressured, isolated. She told me she didn't expect me to forgive anyone, but she thought I deserved the truth. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time in silence. I wasn't relieved. I wasn't even angry yet. I was devastated in a whole new way. Because if this was true, then my son hadn't just chosen to leave me. He had been convinced I was someone dangerous to love. For the first time in 2 months, I considered breaking the silence on my own terms. Not to beg, not to plead, but to tell my side of the story, calmly, clearly, without apology. I spent hours drafting a message, deleting it, rewriting it. Every word felt like it carried too much weight. I didn't want to sound defensive. I didn't want to sound manipulative. I wanted him to hear me, not the version of me someone else had painted. Before I sent anything, I want you to pause again and really think about this. If you found out someone had been poisoning your child against you, slowly cutting you out of their life while you sat there blaming yourself, what would you do? Would you stay silent to keep the peace, or would you finally speak up, even if it risked losing them forever? Because the next thing I did was the hardest thing I've ever done as a mother. I sent him a message, one message. I told him I respected his request for space, but I had learned some things that deeply hurt me and confused me. I told him I wasn't perfect, that I had made mistakes, but I was never abusive, never malicious. I told him I loved him unconditionally and that I was here if he ever wanted to talk, but I couldn't accept being erased based on lies. I didn't accuse Lily by name, I didn't attack, I just told the truth as gently as I could. Then I put my phone down and walked away from it. Hours passed, nothing. I went to bed convinced that was it, that I'd said my piece and whatever happened next was out of my hands. At 3 in the morning, my phone buzzed. I woke up with my heart in my throat. It was Adam. The message was long. Longer than anything he'd sent me in years. He said he was confused, that he felt torn. That he loved me, but felt like he had to choose between his future and his past. He admitted Lily had pushed for no contact, said she believed it was necessary. He said he didn't know what to think anymore. We didn't magically fix everything that night, but it cracked the wall. Over the next few weeks, we talked cautiously, like two people walking through a minefield. He admitted he'd felt overwhelmed by my emotions at times, but he also admitted he'd never felt unsafe or abused by me. He said Lily framed things in ways that made him doubt his own experiences. Hearing that broke my heart all over again, because it meant he'd learned to mistrust his own reality. The confrontation came when Adam finally talked to Lily about it directly. He told me later that it was explosive. She denied everything at first, then minimized it, then accused him of betraying her. In the end, the truth came out in pieces. She had exaggerated, she had manipulated. She had believed she was protecting their relationship by cutting me out. Adam postponed the wedding. The aftermath has been messy, painful. We're not back to where we were, and maybe we never will be. Trust doesn't snap back into place just because the truth comes out. Adam is in therapy now, trying to untangle his own feelings. I'm still in therapy, learning how to love without losing myself. Lily is no longer in our lives. Sometimes I still replay that text in my head. Don't call me anymore. It will probably haunt me forever, but I also know this. Silence almost destroyed me. Speaking up, even when my voice was shaking, saved something. Maybe not the relationship I thought I had, but a healthier version of myself. If there's any lesson in all of this, it's that love shouldn't require you to disappear. Being a parent doesn't mean accepting any amount of pain just to stay connected. And if you're watching this and you're on my side, if you think I did the right thing by finally standing up for myself, hit like. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories like this, because unfortunately, I know I'm not alone. And tell me in the comments what you think. Was I wrong, or was this the only way it could have ended? I'll see you all in the next story.